Hello people, I'm Andy and welcome back to InfoTek channel. Today's topic for discussion is, ain't we slaves anymore? I mean, are we really free in today's world? Because we are so proud of the fact that we ended slavery and it started here in the United States. So did we stop slavery, really? Or it was transformed and now we are slaves of the system? I've been willing to record a video on this topic for a very long time, since probably 2016, when I became an employee of Amazon Web Services. And I was so happy, it was IT job, well paid and all, benefits. But one day our management assembled us, and at this meeting, they told us not to park backwards inside the garage. When we come to work, we're supposed to park all front in. And when we asked why is that, right, and what difference does it make, managers told us, well, when you back up, you first need to come to that spot, make a slight turn, and then lose a lot of time backing up and realigning your car parallel to other cars, right? So you're losing time, which you could spend working. And if it's like 500 employees, it will save them, I don't know, 500 minutes, maybe. That was absolutely ridiculous. It was not even funny, really. Now I'm laughing, but I caught myself thinking, oh my God, it's almost like in medieval times, when you were rowing the boat, right? And you had the management team that would go with whips. And if they feel like you're not working hard enough, right? Or you're not participating in something, they just whip you. And it was happening in the richest company, IT company in the world. You can imagine what's happening in other places and with other companies. I've even heard about employees that would work remotely, again, in IT. The company would provide them laptop and separate camera, which they're supposed to install in the room where they work. So somebody like management can constantly monitor what they do if they don't leave their place. That is ridiculous. It's like to the point that if you want to use a restroom, you would be afraid to stand up and go. Isn't it slavery? So I came up with a very simple method to determine if we are still enslaved. And before we start, I know slavery is a sensitive topic, right? I'm not in a position to lecture anyone. That is why I will let Candace Owens to speak about it and give you some brief on the history of slavery, how it started, where it was going on, and how it ended, and who ended it, right? But I will just let her brief you on the topic, but we will basically weigh our freedoms that we have in the contemporary Western world versus our obligations in front of the system to the government. And we will weigh on a scale our freedoms versus our obligations. What is real and what's not. Let's start with obligations. So to put it simple, like very straightforward, we basically have three main obligations. We pledge our allegiance to the country. All right, if you're a United States citizen. Other countries have very similar stuff going on, by the way. Then you must pay taxes and you must obey laws. All three are very real. Number one, Pledge of Allegiance. Basically means that in time of war or in time of need, government, the system, has a right to send you to actively participate in this war and basically die for your country. Just try not to obey this law. You remember this famous instance of Elvis Presley was sent to a war, right, against basically his beliefs or will, and he was a famous music star. Still, he had to go to the war. So the system made an example out of him, showing that even biggest star and super famous or rich people are not above the law. So obligations are very real. Another story was with Muhammad Ali, very similar. And Muhammad Ali actually declined. He didn't want to go to the war. So the system even went to an extent of stripping him off of his championship belt. So he was not only dragged into court, which eventually he would win, but they even took his championship belt. So it's very real. If you do not obey and you're not fulfilling your obligations to the system and to the government, you will go to prison. You will be dragged to court. You will have to pay or serve time. So it's very, very real. Paying taxes, that's simple. If you live in the United States, you know that's big, you know. They couldn't, back in time when they tried to put Al Capone, the mafia head, in jail, they couldn't find, 100% proof of his crimes. Eventually, he was sent to prison by not paying taxes, and he died in that prison. Obey laws is even simpler. You just go to prison, or you pay if the system senses that you have money to pay. So all three are extremely real. Now let's weigh your freedoms. So we have very real obligations. In return, the system and government enforces your freedoms and rights, which is written and promised by our United States Constitution, which survived the longest. The Constitution is fine, right? And the main document, Bill of Rights, outlines our freedoms and rights as United States citizens. Again, Bill of Rights is awesome. It was written in 1791, so it's been there for a very long time, and only recently politicians, at least some of them, start trying to rewrite it, to change it, which is very alarming, and you will see why in a minute. To make our video shorter, we will take only first 3 amendments. So these are 3 promises from the system and from the government. In return to your pledge of allegiance, must pay taxes and obey laws. So number 1, amendment number 1. To put it again into simple words, it's a freedom of speech and freedom to express religious beliefs. Again, religion is a sensitive topic. Let's put it slightly out of our context. But freedom of speech, that's clear, right? You're supposed to have that freedom to express your opinion, and you will not be prosecuted for that, even if that opinion goes against the main narrative of the system or of the government. So we have freedom of speech and freedom of press, or do we? We don't have to go far back in time, just 2 years back, what they did with this poor fellow Donald Trump when he was actually United States president, because he was not agreeing with the results of presidential campaign, and he truly believed it was forged. He may be wrong, he may be right, but he was silenced. That's what's alarming. They just erased him from entire social media space. So you see, you may say, well, Andy, you are recording this video, right? So you have freedom of speech. Only true to a certain point. We all know that as long as I put this video somewhere in Meta platform, like, I don't know, Facebook, for example, which is controlled by the system, of course, as any social media, or like back then in Twitter, right, before it was purchased by Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk at least is trying to fight the system, and huge respect and kudos to him. But again, as long as I post this video on YouTube or Facebook, there is zero guarantee that it would not be taken down. And typically it happens without explanations. So they would send you a generic message like, your video or topic was not aligned well with our guidelines. And that is it. Your entire channel can be removed. You know, your videos, your post, anything. If it's not aligning with the main narrative of the system, if you go against it, you will be silenced. So there is no really freedom of speech. If they can do it to the president of the United States, it was like transition of power, right? So technically he's a big official still. If they can erase him from social media or from like silence him on all levels, like he does not exist, imagine what they can do to a regular person, like, I don't know, a driver or engineer or janitor. You still feel like you are free and you have freedom of speech? Now, Second Amendment. Boy, this one is big. Even if you don't own firearms, you probably see all over the place posts of how liberals or neoliberals or some governmental structures are trying to take arms away from citizens. System is doing it little by little. First, they try to limit capacity or quality of what you can buy, or limit you on the number of firearms or number of bullets you can put in your magazine, depending on the state, right? And these limits are getting tighter and tighter by the year. So Second Amendment is your right and freedom to bear arms and be able to protect yourself, your home, your family. And you have this right, even if it's against the system, against your government. But for decades now, there is a huge fight between more like conservative type of politicians who want to preserve Constitution and they defend Second Amendment. They fight with liberals and neoliberals that say, no, people don't need to be able to protect themselves. Let's prohibit all sort of firearms because it's harmful, it's dangerous. But it's also dangerous not being able to fight for your life, not being able to protect your family against criminals, for example. Or it's tightly attached to Third Amendment, which I'll explain in a second. Third Amendment, again, to put it in simple words, it means soldiers like US military, or any military, cannot seize your property, your house, for their use without your consent. And it doesn't matter if it's a peaceful time or it's in times of war. And again, if they take your right to bear firearms away from you, how are you gonna be able to fight back? How are you gonna to protect your home? So soldiers come and they're armed, right? And they want to take your house, which is against Third Amendment, against United States Constitution. But if you cannot protect, you don't have anything to protect you with, of course, no one is going to enforce it. They will just take your house and just shoot you, right on your doorstep. But it's just a little remark. I don't want to stay long with the Third Amendment because it's not really applied to our modern life, because for ages, United States is not conducting wars on its territory, all right? It's always somewhere else, right? Not on our land. So basically it does not apply. Instead, let's talk about ownership. Our ability to own something, right? That makes you actually free. If you have shelter, right? You're not afraid of, I don't know, animals, natural disasters, rain, snow, not afraid of, dying of cold or heat, for example. And also you own, let's say, a transportation, which takes you from point A to point B. So you are able to locally go wherever you want. Or are you able to do so? Let's see what's going on here. So let's say you own a house. Here in America, even if it's a loan, it's a mortgage, we still say we own the house or apartment or a car. But do we? Well, first of all, technically on paper, the house belongs to the bank until you pay off the loan. But now the tricky point is that even though you paid in full, you don't owe anything. You purchased home and the land around that home to a specific measure. Now it's still never yours. You do not own anything. The trick is you must pay personal property taxes for your house, for your cars, for anything, right? And these are thousands and thousands of dollars every year. Try stop paying personal property taxes and you will see how your personal property is getting repossessed. So as you can see, you have real obligations and really very ephemeral, very vogue freedoms and rights. And these freedoms and rights are not really enforced. You still need to fight in each and every instance to enforce them if you are successful at all. Here is more food for your thoughts. I found another post related to this topic on social media. You work 8 hours to live 4, right? If you deduct time of sleep and time of work, you have about 4 hours to do something else with your life. You work 6 days or 5 days to enjoy 1 or 2. You work 8 hours to eat 15 minutes. You work 8 hours to sleep from 5 to 8 hours. You work all year just to take a week or 2 of vacation. You work all your life to retire in a very old age, and this age is pushed to the limits higher and higher by the system, as you know. Eventually you realize that life is nothing but a parody of yourself practicing your own oblivion. That's deep. We have become so accustomed to material and social slavery that we no longer see the chains. So nowadays I see more and more that people are waking up, and I can track this type of posts. For example, humans are the only species that must pay for existing. Only species on Earth that pays for living. Do you still feel like you are free in the land of the free? So our government system used a very interesting trick. You never own anything truly. They invented inheritance taxes also. So you pay personal property taxes until you die, and then your kids will continue making these payments. So you constantly pay for existing, for living on this little piece of land. And if you stop paying, it will be taken from you, although you purchased it 100%. You can clearly see that we are still enslaved. We are slaves of the system. Do you still feel that you are free in the land of the free? Plus, new laws that limit your freedoms are produced year by year. For example, you bought a car, right? That's a very bright example. Just hear me out. That's gonna be big. You've been working, you paid taxes, income taxes. Then, using already taxed money, you purchased a car, and you again paid taxes for the purchase. And then you will pay personal property taxes on this vehicle to be able to use it. Also, you have a newly introduced highway fee tax. If your car is not using a lot of gasoline, if it's economy, right, type fuel efficient car, they will put more and more highway tax. To me, it was explained by a DMV agent in a way that because you don't buy too much gas, right, not enough gas through the year, you're not paying enough taxes to repair highways, apparently, which is like absolutely ridiculous. Let's say you paid all these taxes and you spent money to buy that car. Can you really move from point A to point B without paying anything extra? Well, they introduce more and more toll roads, easy pass lanes, high occupancy vehicle lanes that are converted to easy pass lanes where you constantly pay. And the dangerous part, the scariest part in all this is that it's totally controlled by some rich people of the system and not controlled by you at all. I mean, they can raise the fee of you going through that road any minute, any day, any month, any year, any second. Tendency is that they build more and more of these easy passes and tolls and paid roads altogether. So it's just a matter of time when you will not be able to pay to go in a certain way, in a certain road, and they will know which one is very important to you and will put bigger fee for that particular road, for that particular time when you go to work, it will be more and more expensive. And don't be fooled. It costs like $3 right now or $5, but there is no guarantee that next year it will not be $50 or $150 to just go one time through that road. Do you still feel that you are free in the land of the free? You can clearly see that we are still enslaved. We are slaves of the system. Can we do anything about it? Well, my only suggestion would be pay attention to what's happening. If possible, protest. The easiest way to actually fight back is to actively participate in the political life around you, at least on local level, all right? Pay attention. Now we have Wi-Fi, we have smartphones. We can track which party, which set of politicians voted to more toll roads or paid roads, which party was voting for taking your human rights away, right? Which party was basically against you being able to afford more? Which party participates in enormous spendings in the areas that are not necessary and completely disregarding your needs as United States citizen? If you see politicians that actively attack Constitution, Bill of Rights, any of amendments which are our government promises to us in return to our obligations to the government, right? If you see these people are trying to attack First Amendment, Second Amendment, whatever amendment, right? Vote them out of the House. Participate, like go to all elections, actively research who's doing what, who's saying what, and then based on information you collected, vote smart, vote properly, vote for people who preserve Constitution, who actually fight for your rights. This is your fight against modern slavery. This is serious. Well, I'm glad you survived to the end of this video, and this is a very important topic. Please share your thoughts and comments and maybe suggestions how to fight for your freedom, how to fight against modern slavery nowadays. You can put your comments, thoughts, links, whatever information you have. It will help us people to enforce our freedoms and rights. And until next video, bye.